Good morning, I'm Ashish Kalra. I run a family office here in India. I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from the University of Texas at Austin, a master's in operations research from Cornell University, and then worked after that for around 6 years in New York and then Asia with Citigroup Asset Management, and then went back to the University of Chicago Booth School of Business to do an MBA. I believe it's the #1 ranked business school this year, and then have worked roughly in the financial markets for the last 21 years or so with names like UBS, Citigroup, BNP, before starting my own family office. Basically, what I want to try to do today is to get into animal viruses, basically into some of these zoonotic diseases that are happening because animals and man are living closer together, but also because man or human beings are eating animals and the ramifications of that. So basically, I start off with the consumption of cattle, or the mad cow disease. It's the Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease, which happens as a result of eating diseased meat, and human beings have died as a result of that. Case study number 2 is consumption of chicken, the H1N1 virus, or the avian bird influenza. It has happened now a number of times, and recently there was a strain even in Canada from a couple of travelers from China that started the virus. And then third is the human consumption of pigs, the swine flu influenza. This has also led to the 2009 swine flu pandemic, which I'll go into later. Some very interesting research from John Cohen in Science, talking about a new swine flu strain with human pandemic potential, increasingly found in pigs in China. In 2009, when the swine flu pandemic happened, it affected nearly 20% of the world's population, killed nearly 350,000 people. Now, basically what I argue is that animals have natural inbuilt mechanisms to prevent themselves from human consumption. So basically, there will be diseases that will happen in the case of human beings, which will then prevent you from killing animals for human consumption. So I've talked about the pigs, and then importantly is bats, because that's a very important part of the whole value chain. You have the Marburg virus, which is a family of the filovirus, and basically that's the original host of Ebola and the Nipah virus. It's killed 90% of the people infected. Some very interesting research by Dr. Melvin Sanikas, basically talking about why bats make the perfect host for a number of viruses. Also some interesting work by Fareed Zakaria in his 10 lessons for a post-pandemic world, talking about why bats they fly at very high temperatures, and therefore they can carry a number of viruses. And if you actually look at the SARS virus, the horseshoe bat was the reservoir of this virus that got passed into civets, and that led to the creation of the SARS virus. Basically, here the Marburg virus has been found in a number of bats in Africa, even in China. It causes severe bleeding and organ failure. Case number 5 and 6, I want to talk about marine animals and human beings killing whales for human consumption. The reaction of that is basically it causes the snow caps to melt and causes global warming. Case number 6 is dolphins. Human beings consume dolphins in certain parts. Basically, you have dolphins having high mercury content, which prevents them from being eaten by humans. Same thing with sharks. Sharks kill certain predators in the oceanic subsystem, which multiply exponentially, and therefore they are needed. And sharks are hunted in the US, off the coast of Japan, India, Africa, which is not optimal. Same thing for shrimp. So basically, I've gone into some of these case studies. I'll go into the sort of the sort of more intensive animal viruses, which is basically the SARS virus. So this has been caused principally by civets. So if you look at research from the Washington Post, from John Cohen and Robert Roos in the Center for Disease, basically talking about the increasing role of civets in the evolution of the SARS virus. And basically this happened in 2003-2004. The Chinese government ordered 12,000 to 14,000 civets, which is a four-legged mammal, it's a Chinese delicacy, to be killed in February 2004. Now the other thing about SARS is there's an interesting piece in a book called The Pandemic by Sonia Shah, HarperCollins. Basically she talks about Dr. Liu, who was finishing his shift operating on SARS patients. He comes back to his hotel in Kowloon, Hong Kong, meets a flight attendant. She makes it to Singapore before being hospitalized. She passes it on to her doctor, who heads to New York. Basically, there's a group of people from Singapore, Vietnam, Canada, Ireland in the hotel who contract the virus. Basically, it spreads to 5 countries, and finally SARS appears in 32 countries. Now basically, this is the precursor of the current pandemic. With SARS, it's happened with consumption of civets, human consumption of civets. The case of the current pandemic, it has been caused because of consumption of pangolin, which have been infected by bats, and the virus has gone back to pangolin. Next, case study number 12, the human consumption of camels. You found this at the Middle East. This happened in 2012, 2013. Basically, it's the same symptoms for human beings. Here, the camels were being consumed. So it's happened because of closeness to camels, and then also because of consumption of camel meat, according to the Center for Disease Infectious Research. And the symptoms are the same for human beings. There's shortness of breath, you need mechanical ventilators, and this is the same thing that has happened in the current pandemic in terms of symptoms. Now basically this happened in a number of Middle Eastern countries where camels are present, in Bahrain, in Iran, in Jordan, in Kuwait, in Lebanon, in Saudi Arabia. The genesis of this started in Saudi Arabia. Now the difference between this and the current pandemic is that in this current pandemic there were regular 6 to 7 flights from Wuhan to the US, regular 6 to 7 flights from Wuhan to Iran, regular 6 to 7 flights to Europe, and that's how the virus spread. Essentially the virus is spread by human mouth to mouth, and that's the most efficient way for the virus to spread. There are 2 holes in the human body. One is covered 100% of the time, the other is open, and that's what has facilitated the spreading of the virus. I just spent a minute on the 1918 pandemic. Basically that was caused because of avian influenza, that's killing of birds and killing of pigs, swine flu, and the current pandemic, which has been caused by the consumption of pangolin. So basically face masks are designed to basically make you think what you eat. Don't kill and eat animals, period. Just to conclude finally, 5 points. Animals have natural inbuilt mechanisms to prevent themselves from human consumption. Point number 2, I've gone over the evolution of various animal viruses. Point number 3, ecosystem B, which is human beings, cannot feed on ecosystem A, which is animals. Point number 4, ecosystem C, which is cannibals, cannot feed on ecosystem B, which is human beings. They get brain disease. The design of human beings is vegetarian. The animal food chain has to be disrupted permanently, not just during this pandemic. And lastly, there's a design of life. Basically, watch what you eat. Don't kill and eat animals. Thank you.